You wouldn't know it just to see it, but it is absolutely freezing out today. I don't know what the temperature is, but it's probably in the -20s somewhere. So it's not really necessarily a nice thing to be doing to these by running them, but what we're going to do in this video is upgrade this system to a Xeon CPU. I can't even tell what this thing is doing because I can barely see the screen because it's so cold out here. But it is holding its date and time settings, which is good. Right now, this machine has a Core 2, I think it's a Core 2 quad. I don't know if it tells me. Count 2. No, actually it might be just a Core 2 Duo. I think it is just a Core 2 Duo E6600. Which is an odd choice. Usually people who went with the quad core. But it's there. So, and 2 gigs of RAM. I may see if I can upgrade that to 4. I may just not bother. But what we're going to do first is we're going to actually flash the BIOS with modified firmware. Because it does not necessarily out of the box support the Xeon CPUs. So, obviously this carries some risk. I may brick this whole system, which will be entertaining if I do it on video. Well, to everybody except for me. You won't even see the video anyway, so it's not going to be entertainment, now will it? If you do attempt this yourself, obviously you're doing so at your own risk, and I am not responsible for the result, good or bad. There's a website that has links and downloads for a bunch of different modified BIOS files for different boards of this era. Don't grab the first one you see that looks like your board model, because it probably won't work, even if it's got the same chipset. For example, there's a P5B VM. Now, I actually have a P5B VM. I can't believe I left this camera sitting out here overnight. But I do have one. Well, this is actually a P5B VM SE, so there's probably differences, but it's pretty close. It's not the same board. This one could have, I don't even know what other features, other considerations, timing-related considerations, I don't know. So I grabbed the one for the P5B Deluxe, and the one that I actually grabbed is, well, quite a bit newer than the version that this is running. I hope it is the right one, because it's version, what, 1258, 1238? Something like that? I guess we'll find out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and plug this USB stick in. And we're going to do the fun thing of going into Easy Flash 2. Okay. Path A. Oh, it wants it on a floppy. Oh, that's entertaining. Okay, I've put it on a floppy. So, we'll select, checking file. We'll see what happens. That might take a while because it's a floppy. Of course, I'm also assuming this floppy drive is good, and that this disk is good, and that the file is good. So that's good. That just puts 3 levels of possible issues when before there was just 1, because I knew that the USB stick was okay. There's the message. P5B Deluxe 1238. There is the revision date. P5B Deluxe 0302. Do you want to update? This is the last chance you have to say no. So what are we going to do? Obviously we're going to say yes. Now hopefully we have stable power for however long this takes. I think it's loaded into RAM, so it's not reading off of the floppy anymore. I'll go ahead and confirm that. Yeah, there's no floppy activity. I couldn't actually find the BIOS ROM chip on this board. Because that's a TI chip. It's got a couple of LM324s. But usually it's a socketed chip somewhere around the front panel header, and I don't see it. So maybe it's integrated into something, which sort of takes away my possible ability to do much with this. Turned off, back on. I'm not sure if you heard that. It posts though, so that's good. So we still have post. It ignored me. Okay, CMOS checksum bad, that's fine, I'm okay with that. Press F1 to run setup. So, everything there is good. I don't think anything has really changed. Yep, there we go. 1238, build date 09/30/08, so obviously 2016 was the modified date of that ROM. But nothing looks incorrect. So we'll go ahead and we'll F10 save and exit, which will turn it off again. And again, we'll go into setup. I didn't hear that beep. But anyway, or barely heard that beep. I think it turned the J-Micron thing back on, but that's fine. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to turn this off, unplug it, and we're going to go ahead and swap the CPU out. Well, so much for a Xeon upgrade, because this is a Xeon E5450, which is compatible with the 775. However, if you take a look with the chip that was in there, if we do this, you can see that it doesn't quite line up. And the reason why, if we take a look at this board, which has also been flashed and has been modified successfully, the socket has been modified on this. And I am not daring enough to, in minus 20 degree weather, try and modify that socket. So no Xeon upgrade for this. But I did go ahead and change the chip anyway, because this is a Core 2 Duo E6600. So I've gone ahead and I've found a Q6600 in my possession. I just hope that my experimenting with the CPU, trying to get the other one to fit, didn't damage this board. Now, needing a new heatsink. I could just reuse this one, but I want a better one. So I went ahead and I actually bought this, which I hope is actually going to have the TDP capacity to handle a Core 2 quad, but I guess we won't know until I bring this in where it's warmer. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and unpackage this, and we'll get set to installing it. Okay, the bracket is installed. I do kind of like that design, actually. Here's the heatsink itself. I also like the snazzy ice blue color of the fan. I think it's a lot more classy looking than the RGB UFO was. So, maybe it's just as well. But, I gotta grease that chip up, and then we can install this. I'm still kind of wondering. It's only got 2 heat pipes, so I don't know if 95, or sorry, I think that's 105. It might actually be more than 105 watt TDP on that Q6600. I guess we'll find out. Yeah, that cooler looks even smaller than I thought it would. I'm not sure it's totally on there securely either, but I think it's on both tabs. Yeah, it's on both tabs, so it's not necessarily going anywhere. So we'll power this up and make sure it still works. Okay. See if it still works. That CPU fan is not really spinning. I think it does. It does post, so that's good. Yeah, CPU fan error. New CPU installed. I can't believe it. Out of the box and the fan is already bad. That's impressive. So we have Core 2 Quad, 2.4, count 4. Cool. So that's working. Go to the hardware monitor and see what it has to say. Even out here in the chilly. This is not a nice thing to do, and I imagine part of the problem with that fan is probably... I think that's the first time I've read a temperature on one of these things in the negatives. That CPU is pretty cool, though, for obvious reasons. I think that fan is probably supposed to be faster than that on the CPU. It's starting to get a little better. But, I think that's really it. I don't have anything else to share. Still need to get a proper operating system on this. Probably some better video cards than what it's got. So, there's your CPU upgrade, halfway failed. It's not quite what I planned, but an upgrade's an upgrade nonetheless.